My name's Raegan Blacker. I'm the Workington Nature Partnership Officer, and that's a role that I've held for 10 years now. The Workington Nature Partnership was established to address a resource gap that was leaving parks and open spaces in Workington largely unmanaged for conservation and nature. So maybe paths might be trimmed a little bit and bins would be emptied, but there was nothing in terms of adding value for biodiversity or anything. So the Town Council and the Borough Council came together to make the Workington Nature Partnership, and they both put money into a pot which paid for me, my salary, some tools and the van and things like that, and a bit of project work. And I started as a 1-year fixed term contract, but it's now been 10 years, so that says how successful it has been. And I think every town should have a nature partnership. It's extremely good value for money. In terms of the output that we have. So we normally have about 2,500 volunteer hours per year. So if you equate that to if they were all paid minimum wage, well, it'd be £250,000 or something a year. And the jobs that we get done that otherwise we would have to get contractors in to do, like if we needed to repair some steps or a handrail or a fence, a lot of my volunteers have skills to enable them to do that, so then that gets done essentially for free instead of paying contractors. And also you've got the health and wellbeing benefits that all the volunteers get, and people in Workington now have access to better quality green and blue spaces. So yeah, it's worked really well, and it's allowing people to have new skills and see that there's other jobs out there. I also deliver a lot of education sessions for local schools. Our 2 nature reserves at Harrington and Siddick are in the Natural England High Level Stewardship Scheme, so we get money from that. And I think over the past 10 years, thanks to external grants and stuff, we've actually got about £750,000 in external funding that the council might not have been able to access if it wasn't for having the Workington Nature Partnership and working with other community groups and friends of groups and things like that. And we've totally transformed a lot of nature areas in Workington, and from going from 2 designated nature reserves at the start of the 10 years, we've now got about 20 different green spaces in Workington that we manage. So I sometimes wish we could go back and look if the Workington Nature Partnership had never been formed, and what would happen to all those spaces and what things wouldn't have happened, and how many trees wouldn't have been planted and how many habitats wouldn't have been created, and all the wildflower areas that we've got. And yeah, I think it's just made a massive difference. So I'm really lucky that I've been here from the start and created this project that has had great benefits. Midge, one of the volunteers, he was shortlisted for a Springwatch Wildlife Hero Award this year, and we get loads of Come Here in Bloom things, and we've had loads of good news stories for the council. The small blue butterfly would have probably been extinct in Cumbria if we didn't do it. We get questioned every year by the Carlisle Biodiversity Natural History Centre at Tully House. The records, they say you can't have that many rare blue butterflies in Workington, but we do because we work hard to get the habitat right. So it just shows what a difference we can make. I think when I went for my interview, and both of the councils weren't quite sure where the partnership was going to go and how successful it would be, I was like 24, and I went for an interview as you would, like dressed up, hair done and things. And they rang back. They said they were going to ring later that day to see how it went. And when they rang back, they were like, just checking, you're going to be like outside and we expect you to get trained up to use a chainsaw and all this, and you'll be out in all weathers. And I was like, yeah, but I think probably instead of going dressed like this with work boots and combat pants on, I should have probably went dressed like that and not as I was. It's also quite hard, although environmental jobs seem to be more up and coming and people are more focused on climate change and the environment and biodiversity now more than they were 10 years ago. It has been quite hard to recruit. When we've looked, like when I was on maternity leave, for example, it's been really hard to find people with those skills. So yeah, if more people knew that there were green jobs out there, not just ones that sell a field. Because when I finished university, a lot of my friends thinking, well, why are you moving back to West Cumbria? What kind of jobs are you going to get there? But there's actually a lot more work in nature in Workington than people think, and even more now at what we've been doing. So yeah, I think it's really valuable, and we go out every day and we do a good before and after each day, and we've always made a difference.
What drew you to the role initially when you first saw the posting?
So I'd always been interested in wildlife and nature, being out and about, and I did zoology at university and tailored most of my modules to fit with like conservation and ecosystems and ecology and things like that, as well as animal behaviour, which I was also interested in. And then I went in the rainforest in Thailand for a few months because all I wanted to do was go and work with big animals. So I chased gibbons around the trees in the rainforest in Thailand, and then decided that actually I was quite happy to just work with British wildlife because there's a lot less leeches here, and although it rains quite a lot, it's not quite like the rainforest. And so I got a job when I first finished and moved back home to Cumbria, and I got a job as a science technician in a secondary school, the one I used to go to, so that was quite fun being at school. And when I was in there, I set up like a wildlife garden club and things like that. So that was good. And then just this job came up that had never been advertised before. Someone I knew that worked at the council said, oh, there's this nature job of some kind that I've seen advertised. So I had to look at that and I applied. And yeah, I don't think even the council knew exactly which direction it was going to go in, which was quite good because then I could take it in which direction I wanted to 10 years ago. And then through that, we've gained this amazing team of volunteers and all these extra networks and sites as well. But yeah, I think it was more just about working with different community groups and kind of doing something that would benefit wildlife as well as people. There were some skills that I didn't have, so obviously I'd never used a chainsaw before, because why would I have? I don't think most people have used a chainsaw, never mind a 24-year-old female. Which, interestingly enough, I say female, but when I was walking around with my chainsaw, it's not so bad now, but for the first few years, you would get men stop and seem surprised, you know, when you would take your helmet off. And I had comments such as like, you've got a chainsaw, but there's men stacking shelves in Asda and things like that. I think we're probably going away from that kind of thing now, but 10 years ago, it definitely did seem a big deal. It was a struggle to get size 4 chainsaw boots. So yeah, hopefully we are seeing more women in these kind of outdoory roles.
On that note, did you face any challenges when you were looking for your work and working in this sector?
I remember when I had a job when I first came back from university, and then there was a short space of time where I was on job seekers, and I remember going to the interview. It was only for a couple of months, but I remember the lady in there when she said, like, what kind of job do you want to do? And I would say what I was interested in and being outside and what I'd studied, and they would really look at you as though like, well, that isn't going to happen, just go for this interview in Greg's. Yeah, so I think people, and yeah, when I finished university, and people did kind of think, well, what kind of nature or wildlife roles will you get in Whitehaven or Workington? So yeah, there was possibly a barrier to that.
How would you describe the accessibility of skills in land and nature-based courses in Cumbria?
So when I went and did my chainsaw training, I had to travel from Whitehaven all the way to towards Windermere to go on it, and that was for a 5-day long course, and there wasn't anything else closer. And the same when I did like herbicide spraying and things like that. Yeah, I don't know of anywhere on the west coast of Cumbria where you could go and do those tickets, which, you know, they're not particularly out there or anything. You would think that there would be suppliers closer to home that could offer things like that. When I've got the volunteers trained up on things like strimmers and brush cutters and hedge trimmers, it's kind of more informal, and some people from our grounds maintenance team will take over that, or we'll just pass it on ourselves. Yeah, I don't think there is very much in terms of local suppliers for those kind of skills. When I did forest school training as well, I went to Manchester. What other training have I done? I've had to go quite far. I guess you would probably think that there would be a hub almost where you could go and train for things. They could also even maybe have like a tool library or something, so if you needed bits of equipment that you maybe didn't need to buy, maybe that could be shared between people that were qualified to use it, perhaps. And there's not much in terms of, so unless, you know, we've partnered with Cumbria Wildlife Trust for a day on, say, like bee identification or something. There's not really much to offer, you know, say if the volunteers were more interested in bats or how you would manage vegetation around a beck or how you would manage a woodland. I don't think there's really many courses on theory-based things either to kind of give people a better idea on the techniques that we might use for conservation. Sometimes they don't quite believe me when I say, oh, we're just going to like rake all this off this bank and then the bluebells will grow up, and I don't think they believe me in the depths of winter when we're doing that, how much of a difference it'll make. So yeah, possibly there could be something where you could do like more short day courses for conservation volunteers.
And then finally, just how do you think a land and nature skills service could have helped your experience, and what would you like to see from a land and nature skills service in the future in Cumbria?
I think if it had existed when I was starting out, it would have been good to have like a one-stop shop of, well, this is where you go, this is where you can do your chainsaw training and do some practicing in like a safe, controlled environment, possibly with instructors, rather than just going blind into drive and test scenario. It would be good to where you could maybe go as a team and practice different cuts and stuff before maybe the formal training, because I went on this week-long chainsaw course. I'd never even picked one up before, and it was very challenging. Also, it'd be better for if you had to do a refresher course, if it was kind of a more accessible and less formal setting where you could go and do things like that. Also, if there was people to ask, you know, we've got this bit of land, we're thinking of managing it in this way and introducing these species. Sometimes it's quite difficult to find answers that you're looking for, so maybe there could be someone that would be on hand, like a mentor or something, maybe, to help people out. Or it'd be useful to have like volunteer like team days where you could go and do projects together, and then you could transfer those skills back onto the sites that you work on. Also, there might be jobs where you could get more people, so maybe all like the members of the Land and Skills Service could come out and do like team days on nature reserves. If you've got a particularly big job, you could use it as like a way of getting extra hands to carry out a project.